to talk to us right now about where HSAs are emerging as really the hub of healthcare consumerism is Allen Pease, the Chief Business Development Officer with ConnectYourCare. Allen, good morning.
How are you guys this morning?
Good, Allen. I'm great. How are you doing?
It's a beautiful sunny day here in Charlotte, so looking forward to a little more warmth next week out in Vegas.
Yeah, I saw the forecast, so it's a little nippy at night out there, though. So I'm not sure we're going to get much warmer, but I'll look forward to seeing you. Allen, for our audience that may not be that familiar with ConnectYourCare, although you are one of the undisputed leaders, give a little background on ConnectYourCare, and then we'll take a deeper dive here into HSAs and things.
Sure, thanks. So ConnectYourCare, we are one of the industry leaders in administering all tax-advantaged accounts. So HSAs, FSA, HRA, dependent care, COBRA, and we've recently added tuition assistance, adoption assistance, so basically any of the pre-tax accounts that an employer would want to be offering to their employees.
Allen, let's you talk a lot about HSAs as the emerging hub of healthcare consumerism, and that'll be a key discussion point with all of you panelists next week too. But take us down a little deeper on what you mean by that and how that can improve the consumer experience.
Sure. Well, we're seeing a lot of acknowledgement in the correlation between someone's long-term health care needs and wealth accumulation. Remember years ago, Fidelity would talk about you needed $1 million to live in your 401k to live the life you were accustomed to in retirement. And now they're out saying that you'd need a couple of $100,000 in some other account to cover your health care expenses in retirement. So clearly that message is resonating with both employers and employees, and what we are doing is providing the marketplace with one of the most unique HSAs in the industry called HSA on Demand, but more importantly, seeing many more in even some very, very large employers who are going to what we call a full replacement. They're only offering a high deductible health plan, pairing that with an HSA, and either seeding that account or encouraging their employees to utilize that as a savings vehicle for longer-term health care.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about HSA on Demand.
So, anybody that has been in the business or even considered the high deductible health plan, as so aptly named by our government, realizes that there's a big concern about what happens at the beginning of the year when somebody has a catastrophic medical emergency or event and they have no money in their HSA. Right, and you're staring at a $4,000 deductible. That could be daunting at least, if not downright, scary or extremely difficult financial position to be put in. With HSA on Demand, we solved that conundrum. We actually have worked with a couple of key clients and developed this product that makes the HSA function very much like the traditional FSA, in that the employer can advance a contribution for that employee that has that medical need, or on January 2nd or 3rd, and even they can do it in cases where somebody's been paying $20 or $30 for a copay, and when they show up at the beginning of the year on the high deductible plan, and that now copay has gone to $300, HSA on Demand would allow that transaction to go through, and we would seamlessly administer that advance from the employer.
That's pretty interesting, and you're seeing a lot of good positive buy-in from employers across the market right now with HSA on Demand.
Yes, and not only positive buy-in, because most employers understand and don't want to put their employees in that situation or have to deal with that potential financial risk. And so once we solve that problem, yes, a lot of employer adoption, but more importantly, we've rolled this product out with some employees, and we've seen 30% increase in people participating in the high deductible health plan when they were given a choice. So, it really does eliminate that fear factor that people have, provide a safety net for employees, and, we're seeing much greater adoption of the HDHP and with the HSA.
That's great. Talk a little bit about the value and importance of good consumer education around CDH accounts like HSAs.
Well, it's one of the things that we as an organization really try to pride ourselves on and try to continually excel at. And this is a huge paradigm shift for a lot of employees who've had maybe spend 5 or 10 minutes thinking about their healthcare choices during open enrollment, and made sure their doctor was in their network and checked to see how much their deductibles or premiums were going up, and that's all the thought they gave to it. Now, as people are thinking about long-term health and wealth accumulation, and what does it mean to have that high deductible? How risk adverse are they? What sort of medical needs or do they have? Communicating to people is really a very, very important aspect of a successful program. And it could be as simple as calculators. I've seen one where we worked with a client and literally showed the 2 different plan types, the regular HMO or PPO compared to the high deductible plan, what an individual employee could save, and just very clearly laid out a couple of lines of math, and the result was $1,400, $1,500 worth of savings. And for somebody that's not a heavy user of healthcare, that's real money that they can put in their pocket and use for something else.
Yeah. Did Eric Rimsky with Devenir and others talk about this, and I think you alluded to it too. Talk about the investment component and the growth of particularly investing with as we see the growth of HSAs out in the marketplace.
Well, as most people probably have heard by now, if they've been around this industry. I mean, HSAs have a greater earning potential, if you will, than a standard 401k because you have the triple tax savings. The money can be contributed to your HSA tax-free. It can, when you invest that money, it can grow. Any interest or income on the investments are tax-free, and then if you use the money for eligible healthcare expenses, it can be taken out tax-free. So I've seen a comparison chart recently that showed the growth of a 401k compared to an HSA, and the HSA is very, very attractive as a savings and investing vehicle for the future. So we strive to provide a very easy, feature-rich, and wide range of choices for the investment options with our HSA. And, we can even customize somebody's 401k lineup if that's what the employer wants to do.
I think it's interesting, too, along those lines, Allen, Todd Berkeley with HSA Consulting, which will be, the lead moderator with you guys in your opening keynote. He and Eric Rimsky were talking about a speech they made last year to a group of financial advisors. So, to your point, here's the financial advisory community waking up and say, hey, maybe we need to kind of figure out these HSAs. Maybe that's something we should pay attention to.
Well, and I think Todd is right on there because the other sort of natural phenomena that we're seeing is the balances of the HSAs are growing to an extent now where it's fairly meaningful. People have $25,000, $35,000 in their HSA. If it's just sitting there in a money market account earning less than 1% interest, that's not a great financial result. Where you could put it in a wide range of mutual funds and see a much more robust return on your investment.
We had last week. I can't get any guests off the program without talking about the Cadillac tax, Allen. So it's hovering over our heads. 2018 is not that far away. From your perspective, I have the Alliance to Fight the 40 on last week talking about kind of their concerns. What do you see when it comes from your seat as the risk and maybe even opportunity with the Cadillac tax?
Yes, I think a lot of employers are, as has been the case the past few years with the entire Affordable Care Act, trying to understand the complexities and the additional requirements that they are now facing because of that. And the Cadillac tax is one of those that has a potentially huge negative financial impact. So I think employers are very aware of that fact and trying to determine ways to minimize their exposure. And depending upon, the current thinking in D.C., there are those within the industry, and we are participating in trying to repeal the Cadillac tax or at least have the result be less dramatic, and so that you utilizing the HSA will not be impacted by the Cadillac tax. And so I think there's a fairly large groundswell of support for that so that people can save that money. Again, very much like a 401k, save it, not be taxed on it, and not lose that triple tax savings. So I think there's an opportunity, but there is obviously substantial risk.
Yeah, because the biggest concern with Cadillac tax as it relates to HSAs and health accounts is the contributions are to an HSA from an employer and employer are counted towards that tax limit, correct? I mean, that's the
absolutely. And so, right, if you're an employer and you're trying to encourage your employees to, move to a high deductible health plan with an HSA, and you want to be a great employer and seed that account, but it's being taxed or considered for the Cadillac tax as part of the Cadillac tax, then it makes it much less attractive financially for you as the employer to make those contributions. And you could see that it could have a very profound impact on the adoption and growth that we're seeing of the HSAs in the industry.
Who knows what's going to happen, but I think there's a really groundswell of bipartisan opposition to the Cadillac tax, and hopefully that bodes well that something gets done. Either the whole thing gets repealed, or we get some adjustments made that will allow HSAs to stand very strongly. So time will tell, right?
Yes, and I don't want to offend anyone's political sensibilities, but there's obviously a big year coming up next year, and that could have a major impact on how the legislation plays out and where we ultimately end up with the Cadillac tax and HSAs in general.
Yeah. Ellen, we've got a couple minutes to go, and I can't not talk about HSAs and private exchanges. It took us, 11 years to get to 15 million HSA accounts, and people are projecting that over the next 2-3 years will be at 40 million, employees participating in private exchanges. And, the initial projections right now are that the HSAs is the most favorably adopted plan. What do you see as your connection with HSAs, and what do you see happening going forward?
They absolutely are the fastest growing of the account types that we administer, and whether people are in an exchange or not, so they're in a traditional plan. But I think they fit very nicely into the concept of an exchange and with a health plan. And part of it is because it goes back to that very first statement I said about people are starting to understand that healthcare is different, that they can be more of a consumer in healthcare. And so, if you're in an exchange and you're looking at the various options that you have for plans and you're spending your own money, I think that it makes people value the benefit of more, but also act as a typical consumer when they're making their choices. So we see it as a great combination or a tool to be used within an exchange and with health plans. I think the last stat I saw is the 31% of the all new HSAs are coming out of the health plans. We support a few health plans where we are the back end for their HSA that they're offering, and they're coupling it with the standard health plan, whether it is in an exchange or not, and it just makes for a very tight integration and a user experience.
That's great. Allen, we got about a minute or so to go, and I want to leave you an opportunity to kind of close it out with a couple takeaways for our audience, if you would, please.
Sure. I just, encourage anyone who is thinking about the impending Cadillac tax, trying to make sure that they're offering robust benefit programs to their employees. As we all know, it's one of the key factors for employment decisions, particularly for talent, very talented, when you're trying to attract talented people. And the industry as a whole, through lots of efforts like the IHC, I believe have done a good job in helping to transition people from the traditional plans to the more contemporary, whether it's a high deductible health plan with an HSA or somebody that's going into an exchange. I look forward to seeing people next week in Las Vegas. I'm happy to answer any questions, or we're going to go a little more in depth on the HSA on demand product, and look forward to talking to everybody in Vegas.
Thanks, Allen, and I really appreciate you and your team's support. To our audience, ConnectYourCare has been one of our leading gold sponsors all year, and really thank you for that, and look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon.
Thanks very much. Take care. You too.